So this video will be an important update about 5G, which a lot of people are realizing is not what people actually think it is. And of course, we've documented and covered how Trump not only wants 5G, but even 6G wireless technology. Yes, 6G wireless technology. But in this video, there's a lot of misconceptions, as even CNBC Markets released an article headlined, "There's zero chance that 5G is a ubiquitous technology by 2021. Analysis say this is something that, of course, Verizon is even admitting. And there's a lot of technical talk, a lot of talk about Huawei, about national security, and even the United Kingdom recently greenlighting Huawei, a Chinese company, which many people have accused being tied into the Chinese state, for setting up their 5G networks in their country. Now, this is important to bring up here because in the United States, Verizon is pretty much on the forefront of 5G technology. They have announced that they're going to be investing 17 to 18 billion dollars. Some of that, of course, will be used to expand 5G bandwidths. Now, when we're talking about 5G, we're talking about two different things when we're talking about China and Huawei, and when we're talking about Verizon and the United States, because we found out that China is using kind of wide range, sub 6, below 6 gigahertz wavelengths. Look, kind of the best way to describe them out of the tech geek talk is kind of like wide, long, bigger wavelengths to provide you that fast kind of internet that you don't see anywhere else. While in the United States, they're mainly using kind of what could be best described as shortwave, millimeter wave spectrums, which of course, or smaller systems don't work on a larger kind of area. But this is happening in the United States because the 5G bandwidths are being used and have been registered and are registered to, of course, the U.S. military, because many people forget 5G technology has also been a component that the U.S. military has been toying around with and using, and because of the bureaucratic nonsense, is not willing to let go of them. And this could be why Donald Trump was talking about 6G, because of already the bandwidths and the use of 5G by the U.S. military, which is important to bring up, and why there's a lot of people stoking a lot of fears in this. So this is interesting to see this whole thing unfolding, especially with Huawei, which even the British are saying, yeah, sure, come on in and set up this 5G system, which again, Jason, I've been very critical of, and I do believe there should be more criticism of. What is your take on this kind of bigger economic 5G internet of all things that's coming our way?
Well, let's start talking about the health risks to start, because when we talk about millimeter bandwidth, and in the United States, that's what 5G is. That is very detrimental to our health compared to 3G and 4G, in the sense that it actually penetrates skin in studies and stays there. There's actually remnants of it that does not happen with the GSM bands, the CDMA bands, the lower level spectrum bands. However, when you look at what's going on in China and really everywhere else in the world, they're not really using that. So when we talk about the spectrum bandwidths, it's contiguous wide spectrum bandwidth. And why do you want a wide spectrum? Number one, it's going to cover more areas, but number two, it's not going to have as much of a direct effect on human beings and other life. Go ahead.
And Jason, really quick, sorry to cut you off here, but they're literally talking about implementing 5G by putting these 5G kind of repeaters and 5G systems on every light pole. They're doing this because, hey, we need driverless cars. I'm like, that's not the way things should work. If there's a loss of internet connection, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to drive your car. But ultimately, when you're talking about millimeter wavelength symptoms used for the possibility of hurting people, this is exactly what the U.S. military was testing it, playing around with it, registered it, and has it for, which is important to bring up here. Keep going, Jason.
Yeah, and the reason I really like this article by CNBC is because this guy breaks it down. So he's telling you, first of all, 5G isn't just one technology. And let me give you a great example. All those commercials are out there with Sprint right now going, their 4G is even faster, is twice as fast as before. Yeah, because their 4G wasn't real LTE. It was their own spectrum of LTE. They had different bands than what was being used by AT&T, what was being used by Verizon, which were faster bands. So their faster 4G LTE is just getting to like the first level of fast of a Verizon or an AT&T. So when he says it's not ubiquitous, he's saying, look, millimeter bandwidth, wide bands, but in the United States, even like you talked about with repeaters, they're talking about this technology being necessary for driverless cars, the Internet of Things, and big data. This man puts that to rest and says, you know what, Luke? Look, the bottom line is internally these cars are going to have a better GPS system because they're not going to just stop working when the cloud is down. So this is also a lot more hype. And second, when 5G first breaks out, it really won't be as fast as they're saying. It'll be maybe a little bit faster than 4G. So all this talk of, I'm going to get a 4K movie in 2 seconds. Yes, theoretically you could if you had the best stuff in the world, but you might have to wait 2-3 minutes. Not that that's a stretch.
Yeah, it all depends how close you are to the microwave of this thing that's emitting these millimeter waves. And the bigger point I wanted to make here, right, because we're seeing a lot of senior security officials in the UK and in the United States screaming right now, saying it's so dangerous for Huawei to set up 5G in the United Kingdom. Why would we allow this company that's connected to the Chinese government, that has been used against espionage? This company can't even sell their cell phones in the United States. Cell phones by Huawei, which is a major company, are being banned in the United States. If the American government is so afraid of 5G being implemented by another country for the use of course, nefarious purposes, why should we entrust it in private hands here in the United States, with Verizon being the head of that brand thing, especially with so many dangerous implications that, of course, the experts are warning about the United Kingdom? They're showing their kind of two-faced hypocrisy here, I believe, Jason, in my opinion, from the latest events that are unfolding in the United Kingdom. What do you make of everything that's happening there with Huawei pretty much getting the green light with the bigger battle that's happening between Huawei and the United States, with the future of 5G at stake?
The United States, Canada, other Western governments, I would just say that there's separate financial interests at play. And that obviously Britain and most of Europe, by the way, are looking at wide spectrum bandwidth. And who has the best wide spectrum bandwidth to go with right now? It's Huawei. It's a business decision. You know, people out there that, follow my stuff know that I'm a bit of a technophile. I definitely like technology. I like faster speeds. That's good. But I've been very hesitant to endorse 5G. Why? Because of the fact that you have these repeaters and you have it penetrating the skin. Now, I'd be a lot less apprehensive if we did go with the wide spectrum bandwidth that seems to have less of a health risk. I think that we have to look at both sides of this because, let's be honest, Luke, technology does not go backwards, and there are certainly some things that this would be beneficial with. But to get on the hype train, to sell everybody on the positive, oh my God, speed effects, and not look at the larger implications of being able to track, trace, and database people in a real-time situation to bring in a social credit type score, like in China, to start face scanning people on the streets and giving them tickets. That's all much more of a reality and a possibility when you bring in technology this fast.
I disagree, Jason. Let's go to nature, get a cup, get a string, tie it up, talk to your favorite person. Hey, what's for dinner? Screw it. Get away from this technological oppression. Go to nature where there's no cell phone repeaters, millimeter waves. And that's also recommended, by the way. Just at least like once a week or once a month, go out there, hug a tree, be a hippie. That's my last take on this larger debate. Sorry, I kind of destroyed yeah, that's my take on it. Anything else you want to say, or should I end it here?
I like trees. I don't hug them, so you can end it on that if you'd like, Luke.
Trust me, hug a tree. Hey, and have a good time. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, support us with your shares and with your dollars. Voting with your dollars, voting with your shares is more important than ever, especially in a world run by technocratic monopolies that don't really like independent thought, since it hurts their bottom line. So again, just overall, go to wearechange.org/donate. Your support is more important than ever. And because of your support, we're able to be free and independent. And because of that, I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org. Hug a tree.